Accelerating the digital finance transformation. It's all about the e-invoicing and settlement solutions, which will help improve processes and times in the back office. I'm going to introduce Bruno Roussel, Senior Manager of Apps Community at IATA, who's going to again lead and moderate the session and introduce the rest of the group. Another good discussion. Thank you. Bruno, welcome. Thank you.
Good morning to everyone. So we are talking about data sharing. When we talk about finance, today people like changing paper, invoice, or this kind of things. I'm dreaming when I hear what you want to do. Us, we are starting much for a legacy process, and what is a challenge to us is not only we have to work together as a collaboration, but also there is the government that implement new process, new system, that is even given more complexity to us. So to assist me today, we will have Monica Cobolembas from Lufthansa System Global Services, and we'll have Frédéric Berthoud from World Flight Services. So what you will learn today, it's collaboration is key, sharing data. In our world, there is less complexity in the sense of confidentiality and all that because it's between two partners, so it's easy to do. But it's a win-win. Exchanging data is very important to us. In finance, it's not something that people are used to, and it gives a lot of benefits. As I mentioned, the invoicing legislation is changing everywhere. So you can imagine there's an airline that have a global operation. If they fly to Italy, they will receive an XML in Italian. If they go to Mexico, they will get an XML in Spanish. So each country has its own way, and the need for the aviation to reconcile the invoice is a bit different. And people consider that using PDF by email is electronic, which is not. And what we work on is digitalization and really end-to-end. We are to the point that we can put within an invoice information about SLA, about delay of aircraft, ULD services, all the detail to the very low level. So it's very, very powerful for people to work together. Monica.
Thank you, Bruno. Good morning to everyone. Today, actually, I'm going to touch several topics that has an impact on the standardization and automatization of finance processes. What kind of the journey we take to reduce the paper invoices and in return to get invoices in an electronic way, as well as invoice control perspective based on the manual input from the suppliers and automatic one. But let me first present the Lufthansa Global Business Services as a global delivery organization that is specialized in 4 core business activities such as finance, human resources, procurement, revenue accounting, which is based in 4 main locations, so Mexico City, Frankfurt, Krakow, and Manila, serving 200 companies with an expertise of 1,000 employees. And as mentioned, these are our core business activities, so finance, human resources, procurement, and revenue accounting.
Good morning. I will introduce a quick presentation of WFS. We are one of the leading companies in the world for cargo handling and ground handling services. We are acting in more than 20 countries, 168 airports. Regarding the invoicing, one of the key challenges for us is with all these countries and stations, we have a real challenge with IT solutions for harmonization and standardization throughout all the countries, knowing that we have also many customers, especially airlines like Lufthansa, that have their own systems. So this invoicing challenge is a real interesting one for all of us.
the slice seems to be complicated. Sorry for that. So let us start from your left side. I want to talk about the journey we took within the Lufthansa Group, especially showing the Lufthansa and cargo results, how we reduced the paper invoices during the COVID. And our inbound channel strategy started before pandemic started, actually. So we were already in a position that we tried to educate and onboard our suppliers to deliver invoices in an electronic way. By electronic way, we mean actually several formats. So everything what makes paper document digital. So such as PDF invoice received via email, as well as EDI, so direct connection, XML files delivered, TXT files delivered to us. And in Jan 2020, we were already quite successful because we talk about not only the German market, but worldwide. And we were touching 87 countries. All countries were e-invoicing, so meaning sending invoices in an electronic way are acceptable by the local regulations. And therefore, we reached 72.33%. And since COVID pandemic started, actually it helped us a little bit to educate more our suppliers that the paper invoice is not our future, and it's also a lot of manual effort on their side. And by reaching one point to another using the paper invoice, it takes much more time. That's why in April 2020, we are already in the position of 82% now within the 91 countries. And here I want to talk to you because for that reasons I'm also presenting the split of what is the kind of the format of the e-invoicing. So 67% still stands for the basic format of digitalization of the invoice, which is the PDF invoice, which is sent in email, obviously for countries where local regulations allows to that. Then 12.5, this is the already not only the PDF invoice, but this is already other structured XML files that delivers line item details. And so far, 0.5%. It is just the ISXML, so IATA XML we are receiving from our suppliers, and we are aiming to increase that number. And one more point is related to legal invoicing. It has been splitted to show you a little bit what kind of the e-invoicing we are also having in our organization. So as you may know, since 2019, Italian local regulation for invoicing process required changes from the local Italian companies. And all the information has to be shared with the Sistema de Intercambio, so SDI. So this is the local Italian government platform via the agreed XML, PA Factura XML format. And it touches actually us in both processes from the accounts receivable side and accounts payable side, because our companies are also based in the local markets. So when it comes to, when we issue an invoice to our suppliers, we issue it using our standard formats, and we use our certified invoicing provider who make the validation and the proper mapping to agreed XML PA Factura standard, which is then downloaded to SDI, so Sistema de Intercambio, so Italian government's platform, from where our suppliers or business partners received the data. And from the accounts payable side, because we are also receiving invoices from the local suppliers, it looks the same. meaning our business partners are obliged to deliver invoices to Sistema de Intercambio in the structured format way, and we also use our certified invoicing provider that downloads that information in the PA Factura XML. They map it to the standard we accept in our ERP systems, and thanks to that, we have the full flow ready and operating.
I would like to share also the view from WFS. As mentioned in introduction, this is a win-win challenge for our customer and us. So here, just sharing the main elements why it's interesting to enter in this kind of e-invoicing process using a portal. You know that in many European countries, we will have mandatory e-invoicing in the coming years. Date is different country by country, but all the countries in Europe will have to go into e-invoicing process in 2 or 3 years maximum. The other important element, which is clearly mentioned by Monica as a real value of this kind of process, is the standardization and harmonization. So here, the use of a portal as an intermediate solution between our system, invoicing system, and the airline or Lufthansa system is very important, because we can have standardization of the document format and content regarding invoices and supporting documents with all the elements supporting the calculation of the invoicing. And this is also harmonization through going through a channel that is a single one. And if you remember in my introduction, I mentioned 20 countries. One of the challenges for us is having 20 countries, 20 different invoicing solutions throughout the different regions, our region. So using the portal will help us to have this harmonization and also harmonize and standardize the data we share with all the airlines and the customer, because we can then address and send them all the details they need and have harmonized the way they ask. Some ask for Excel files, some others ask for CSV file, different format, different data, which is very complex to address. Other value is the streamlining and improvement of the process. Using the automation and the standard, the portal will help us to have some feedback on the different steps of the process, as it's been sent, as it's been received, and it will accelerate also the transfer to this data. We can have the confirmation from the supplier team in our customer that everything has been received, that the formats are correct, that the data can be processed and controlled. Additional value for us, but also for our customer, is improvement of the quality of the invoices and the supporting document. Going through the portal will also make some elements mandatory, and we will need to enrich some of our operational data that are coming from our operational system, so we can share them directly and automatically with the supplier team of our customers. One point that we have identified, also shared by Monica, is the efficiency of the control and the checking of the invoices through the supplier system. This will also help us to have, I would say, more quick and transparent exchange through the portal regarding some mistakes, disputes that our customer can send us back regarding some invoices. At the end, this is increasing the collaboration of partnership between us through a better communication, a better tracking of all the elements we share, all the discussion we must have to go through the approval of the invoices and their payment. We also have, as I already mentioned, but we can go further in the dispute management process, going into a logic of using a portal to declare and register some dispute. Then we can address them, also have some automated process to collect all the disputes and address them internally to the correct person. Also, using a portal is important and valuable point regarding compliance, legal and legal tax requirements. As mentioned earlier this morning, all the countries have different laws. In Europe, the tax is quite harmonized, but compliance can be different. So using a reference portal for the business in airlines is also helping to be aligned with these compliance rules. We have started this initiative to implement the IGHC invoicing portal at the end of last year. We have started in France, which is the main countries for the EMEA region in WFS. We are now live with some important airlines, Lufthansa, of course, why we are also speaking together today. We are also live with British Airways, KLM, Korean Airlines, Sri Lankan, Swiss, and United Airlines. So this is important impact for us, even for the starting point. We have already more than 100 invoices shared automatically through the portal for €1 million revenue each month. Next one.
Yes, and speaking about the standard formats and the way how they are delivered, the next step is the invoice control. So since few years, we centralized the teams. So 50 employees working from 2 different centers, Krakow, Mexico, to become one invoice control team that is focused on the recovery and prevention actions. This service is delivered to 8 airlines with the services for fuel, air traffic control, airport and handling cost, crew cost, catering, flight irregularities, and warehouse handling. We used one common user interface, however, still using for supporting related tools depending from the commodity. And what was already said by Frederic and myself, let me now present you the 2 perspectives of invoice control from the airline side. If we're gonna have an input which is PDF only or paper-based, or what happens if we're gonna receive the structured data within the line items details. On the top, you may see this is our, let's say, the database, which stores the contract information from the suppliers, as well as also receive operational data from the databases. This helps us to make the correct charge calculation for the later approval side. But starting from the beginning, on the document receipt, let me first go through the manual invoice process. So when we receive the paper invoice or paper in digital, but only in PDF format, what we do within our organization to a little bit reduce the manual effort is, first of all, we run OCR on that invoice to get the header data. This is already transported to our accounting systems, where accountants must manually make the invoice codification. So it, depending on the size of such an invoice and attachments, it may take a few hours or few days. Therefore, when the posting is being already done, then it proceeds to the cost simulation. And then in the background, our database compares if the information input from the suppliers matches with the contract data and operational data. If it matches, then auto approval follows. If it doesn't matches, then it is left for the controller. And on the comparison to the manual process, we are also receiving the structured information on the line item details, which we really like, and we are already having from WFS as well. So a part of the invoice visualization, which is also provided, we get the line items details in the structured format, which could be XML, TXT, and also, of course, IATA XML. That brings automatically, everything is transferred to the check engine, which compares the reference unit prices from the header data and line items. The posting is done based on the line items, and then in the background again, there is kind of the simulation, check if the flight service has happened. And if the cost simulation matches, then again, auto-approval follows. If not, then it's left for the controller. So what I want to highlight here is having the structured information and on-line item details. The benefit is that the process is errorless, very efficient, and it can be processed on the real time. And showing you on the right side, just to compare the figures, the manual processing for the moment stands for 78% on the invoice number, which is 51% of the invoice value for the moment. However, the automated one, so far we managed to get on the 22% of the invoice number, but it's very similar on the invoice value than the manual one. So we are aiming really to introduce the line items in the structured data to receive from our suppliers and recommend ISXML for this purpose.
Yeah, we have to speed up. So there are some more details here. What is key is when you get the data in electronic format, you can consume the detail and you can match the data automatically. So if you have a difference on a flight number, a weight of an airway bill, you will match it. Where you receive a PDF is only the invoice that is automatically loaded in the ERP, but you need to do a very manual check. This one we can maybe speed up.
Yes, already commented.
Yes, and actually, I already also commented it that it is really an interest of IATA, airlines, and business partners to use the same standard process data. And because the process is then less manual, we have less follow-ups, there is a rapid response, payments on time, and the most important, the partnership. So the key takeaway from my side is that the structured and standardized input is a key for smooth and touchless processing of incoming invoices.
You want to touch base on settlement?
Yes, going further with this project that we have started in France, with some airlines that you have seen, next steps will be to go on in France with additional airlines. We are working with Bruno in the testing process for many of them. Also extend this e-invoicing process with SIS to other countries in the region, and going with some airlines to the payment process using the IATA clearinghouse that will go to the full automation of the process, including invoicing and settlement and payment.
Thank you. So this was a communication that we did together for educating the community. So what is the takeaway from us is there is a benefit to use this process. You see that we do digitalization. We try to improve exchange of data at the operation level. But in finance, we are years behind because sending a PDF by email is not something that is electronic from my point of view. When I talk to supplier, I say, look, I give you an example. I was in Amsterdam talking to Amsterdam Airport. I say, and just KLM celebrated 70 years. So I say, since 70 years, you're sending paper invoice to KLM. And I say, for how many more years you want to work with KLM? And it's like, it's more than the wedding because it's for life. And so the point is to say that we work together and there is a benefit to implement the process. There is a return of investment. And even it takes 6 months or 2 years, it doesn't matter because it will be savings at the end. And it's becoming everywhere an obligation to do invoicing. It's not a choice, it's more like an obligation. So with adopting such process, you match the two goals. You deliver electronic data to the airline in the way that they can process the data, and you meet the legal requirement. Also, I mentioned the clearinghouse. We just celebrated 2 weeks ago 75 years of IGHC, so it's a very old process, but it's still working very fine. And so WFS is planning to use it, and the same with Swissport and other suppliers. So it's really a system that is beneficial for all parties, because everything you do to secure payment is costing always more money than paying the fee of the clearinghouse. It's very important. And I have discussed with a lot of people in the industry in the last 10 years, I never found anyone that didn't get any benefit to use that process. So there is always a different business case. It could be based on cost of labor. You see that Lufthansa, for example, they use shared service center in Poland and in Mexico because it's cheaper than Germany. So people are moving tasks that are manual to low-cost country. But here, where the digitalization, you could imagine that you don't need to transfer the work in another place. With a process that you can do in-house, you will be able to do that with less people and be more efficient. And this was my conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.